After further review, this is the Fantasy Football Blitz.
Do you know who I am?
Powered by whotostart.com.
Who the hell are you?
Whotostart.com.
Hello.
The Fantasy Football Blitz.
Who the business?
This is the Fantasy Football Blitz, powered by whotostart.com on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and 104.5ESPN.com.
Let's do it. The NFL week starts tonight. San Francisco hosting Seattle. Before you set your roster, check with our friends at whotostart.com. That's who, the numeral 2, start.com. Darren Tietkins with us as he is every Thursday. How are you, D?
Doing well, thank you.
Hey, let's start with tonight's ball game. This, on paper, looks like a miserable Thursday night experiment with two pretty bad teams right now. Anything worth watching in the fantasy realm?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's going to be some fantasy stuff out there, but just kind of globally speaking about the NFL, I mean, this is the Seattle team that was, the NFC champion last year, which is crazy to see that they're, really, really struggling. I think they really do miss, Dan Quinn on the defensive side, and then, some losses to the offensive line. Obviously, losing Max Unger to your Saints was a big blow. Russell Wilson's running around out there like he has no time to throw the football. Marshawn Lynch is back, so he's probably your fantasy star if you want to plug one in this week for the Thursday night game. He's going to be the guy that you want.
While you were saying that, I just kept thinking if we could just have a do-over on that trade. Just take Jimmy Graham back, send Unger to Seattle. I think both franchises would be happier for it if it played out that way.
Could be, yeah. I mean, Graham is starting to come into his own for the Seattle Seahawks, so he might actually have a good game tonight. So if you don't have Lynch and you have Graham, you should be fine. Bears,
Bengals, Broncos, Packers, all on bye. I would assume some people are likely looking for quarterback help with guys like Rodgers and Peyton Manning and Andy Dalton all on the shelf. So who are some of those off-the-radar guys who might be a good pickup this week?
Well, it looks like Matthew Stafford's going to, plug himself back into the consideration here. Had a great game against the Bears. His schedule really, really softens up here as the schedule goes on. Faces Minnesota this week. The Vikings have been decent against the pass, but the Lions have no run game, so he's going to be throwing a bunch. Guys like Blake Bortles, Brian Hoyer, names that are not, household names in terms of the NFL, putting up great fantasy stats. So guys like that are going to be needed to be plugged into a lot of lineups this week, as you said, with a lot of guys on bye.
What about a guy like Zach Mettenberger, who looks like he's going to replace Marcus Mariota this week?
The guy, he turns the ball over way, way, way too much. He's going to be a real risky start. I mean, if you're in a league that you have to start him, you better cross your fingers. But more than likely, you can find a guy like Brian Hoyer or Blake Bortles and get the same and get a lot better production fantasy-wise.
Let's get some questions for Darren Tietkin. Who2start.com. It's the numeral 2. They'll always get you personalized fantasy football advice. Go to the website, plug in the promo code ESPN. They'll give you a 10% discount. Here's one via text. Says, Darren, PPR league, I need 2 running backs. It's from Greg. He said, I need 2 running backs. Joseph Randall, that's Charkandrick West, Melvin Gordon, Duke Johnson, and Rashad Jennings.
West had a pretty unimpressive coming-out party last week, but we do like him this week a little bit, playing Pittsburgh. Not in our top 25, but he was knocking on the door, especially in PPR format, so I think you give him another run. And then Rashad Jennings, the three-headed monster there for the Giants isn't great, but should be good enough this week against Dallas, so I think Jennings is your second play there.
Standard league, who to start, Matt Ryan or Andrew Luck?
Well, we have Luck as our number 1 quarterback this week. Sorry, Saints fans, but that's going to be a bloodbath. But, I mean, there's going to be lots of scoring in that game, so you never know which way it tips. But in terms of fantasy production, Andrew Luck's our number 1 guy this week, so you got to play him.
Justin Hudson asks, PPR league, who to start, Brandon Cooks or Vincent Jackson?
Well, I mean, Cooks obviously is not a number 1 wide receiver. He's just too small. He really misses that, that big guy that takes the coverage away. That being said, like I said, it's going to be a higher scoring game, lots of passing. So plug Cooks in this week.
Let's see if we can get another one here from the huddle. It says, it's via text, In a PPR league with return yard points, should I start Tyler Lockett at flex, not knowing if Macklin will play Sunday, the only option due to players on buys? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Macklin is probably not going to play this week. He did not practice today, so unless he's comes back tomorrow, which would be a kind of a surprise given the way that these concussion protocols go, he's probably going to be sitting this Sunday. So Lockett probably is not going to get a lot of look on the offensive side, but if you get points for the return yards, tonight might be a good matchup for Lockett. So I guess you got to plug him in.
John Brown or Amari Cooper, who to start?
Well, Brown's starting to come around, and the Cardinals have one of the better passing matchups of the week against Baltimore on Monday night. So, definitely put John Brown in your lineup. You should have at least 190 yards and a touchdown this week.
Reese asks who to start, Cam Newton or Matt Ryan?
Well, we got Ryan at 4 and Cam Newton at 8 this week. Actually, the difference between 4 and 8 really is not that big of a difference. But I think you probably play Matt Ryan. That offense is going to look to get back on pace or after losing last week. So Titans don't present much of a problem at the passing side of things. So go with Ryan there.
Fantasy Blitz, who2start.com. Let's see if we can squeeze in a couple of more before you set your fantasy roster. Check with our friends over at Who to Start. Here's one from Jay. Bolden and Hyde tonight. What do you think?
I think both of them are in trouble. I mean, Hyde is dinged up, and Bolden is going to be probably covered by your buddy Richard Sherman there. So tough go for both of those guys. Unless you have, if you're saddled by a lot of bye weeks, you have to start them. Then you plug them in and hope for the best. But don't have either one of them in our top 25.
What do you think about this trade, Darren? It's one via text. Trade away T.Y. Hilton and Jonathan Stewart for Joseph Randle and Gio Bernard in a PPR league. What do you think?
I would stick with what you have. I think the best is yet to come for Hilton as Andrew Luck gets that shoulder, back up to speed. So I think Hilton, we have him as our number 7 receiver this week. He should have a huge game. So might be a little hasty to do that move.
Who to start, Breeze or Flacco?
We love Breeze. Like I said, Luck's our number 1, but we have Breeze right beneath him at 3. So he's going to have a big game. Definitely go with Breeze.
Who to start, Jonathan Stewart or Sharkandrick West?
I think if you're in a PPR league, West is probably worth going for him. Don't like Stewart's matchup at all this week. Going up against a very, very tough Philly front 7. They've given up the second fewest fantasy points to running backs all season. So, Jay Stu, we have him at our number 21 ranked running back this week, but take that with a grain of salt. And if you have a PPR format, West might actually outscore them.
Who2start.com. It's the numeral 2. They're on Twitter at Who2Start. You get personalized fantasy football advice. Plug in the promo code ESPN, and they'll save you 10%. Appreciate